Hey everyone, the video we're going to see next explains the balance between control and substantive testing that we need to do on an audit, and why in a high control risk situation we need to do more substantive testing, and in a low control risk setting why we do the opposite. So let's start by drawing a spectrum for our level of control risk. Alright, so based on our knowledge of the client, we're going to identify control risk as low or high. How do we do that? Of course, we need to make sure that we can understand the internal control structure of the firm by understanding the 5 factors: the control risk environment, risk assessment, controlled activities, monitoring and information and communication. So those are from ASA 315. So for every firm we need to gather a basic understanding of the design of the internal controls. Alright, so for every firm we have to have that basic level of knowledge. Now, when we have low control risk, we're going to rely on those internal controls and we're going to test those internal controls to make sure that they're operating as they were designed. So here, in this extra section here, is my level of control testing. Okay, so for my control testing, where there is low control risk and the controls we think do a good job of preventing and detecting misstatements, I'm going to test the operation of these controls to see if they do what they were designed to do. If I have high control risk, it's like having a bucket with a couple of holes in there. If I can see the holes in the bucket, I don't need to worry about testing whether the bucket is going to leak water if I pour water in there. So in a high control risk situation, instead, I'm going to focus my effort on substantive testing. Detailed checking of accounting documents such as journal entries, reconciliations, etc., to original source documentation. So where control risk is high and detection risk is low, I'm going to gather an understanding of my internal controls, and then I'm going to do a significant amount of substantive testing to determine whether there are any material misstatements in the account. Where control risk is low and I'm going to rely on those controls and detection risk is high, then I'm going to test the operation of those controls for a significant portion of my audit, and then I'm going to do some substantive testing. And you might be wondering why we always do some substantive testing, this little amount here. That's because control testing doesn't cover the entire financial period, and to be extra sure and extra safe, we'll always test some transactions or balances substantively. Now, of course, here in a high risk situation I might test 100 or 150 invoices. In a low risk situation I might only test 5 or 10. So this is my backup, my double check. Now what happens if I test my internal controls and I think they're low, but based on the operation I find that there are deviations. There are situations where the control is not operating as designed. Well, then I need to go back and I need to adjust my control risk assessment to a higher level. So I need to shift across to the right. That means that my detection risk is moving towards low, and I need to increase the amount of substantive testing that I do. So this diagram will hopefully explain why in a high control risk situation we don't do much testing of controls, we do mostly substantive testing, and why in a low control risk situation we're going to do mostly control testing and some substantive testing. Of course, if we're in the middle, I'm going to test some internal controls and do substantive testing as well.